All right. Hello again, everybody, and welcome to another exciting episode of. All right. Hello. I had that muted. I swear to you, I had that muted. This is the Kingdom, the Kael House. This is my custom campaign setting. Major shit happened last week. Fade was able to forge. To be perfectly honest, I think he made a pretty cool god weapon. Like, I think it's kind of badass. You know, it's got a Wolverine kind of vibe to it. Like, it's cool. And so, yeah, he's got a pretty badass weapon. And then their whole town with all their friends got lit on fire by a bunch of Eladrin in airships, which up until like a month ago, that technology didn't exist. And they met a gnome who talks kind of fast. So now you guys were able to escape. You guys kind of found like a skiff kind of ship. You were able to get out and hide on because your base is basically built in the middle of an archipelago. So there's all these little islands that are technically all connected. They're one big landmass that is mostly underwater. And so you guys were able to get to one of the other islands on the archipelago and hide out long enough to rest, to kind of deal with what it was that had happened, and to kind of come to your senses as to what you guys want to do. So it's been, I'm going to say it's been about 24 hours since the attack. You guys took a complete full day to recover because a lot of you guys, not only were you hurt, but the forging experience was very, very difficult on all of you as well. And one of you has been island hopping for like a week now. And another one of you was just like never-ending storying all the way from the edge of the world. So you guys took a full day to completely recover from everything. You guys have had a constant watch. To make things a little bit more simple, I know Fade, you picked up three corpses, right?
Yeah, that's all we could fit with trying to save people.
And so you had 2 druids and a ranger, right?
Yeah.
All right, so I am going to have you basically roll contested checks against me to see if you were able to return any of them to life. Yours, we're just going to do straight up D20 rolls to make this as simple as possible.
Sure.
So, first one.
16.
I got a 5. So.
Aha. Druid 1.
All right.
Up.
Next one, choose Druid Ranger.
Druid 2.
Okay. Roll.
8.
7.
Ooh, sorry, Druid 2. Toast.
No, you won.
Oh, crap. You got a 7. I got an 8. Fantastic.
Yeah, I got a 7.
All right, Ranger. Good luck to you, buddy.
You know how numbers work, right?
Smaller Inspector.
What are these numbers you speak of?
Ranger.
Ranger, 15.
Roll for it. I got a 16. So the Ranger you were not able to bring back.
Rangers are weak sauce. What can I say?
Dude, Xanathar's guide has some.
No, Rangers are dumb.
New Ranger options. Hey, I seem to remember one of your characters having a very intimate relationship with a Ranger.
Oh, you're right. Yeah, I forgot.
Perhaps borderline stalkerish, but whatever. That's a story for another time. But I, in the Adventure League, I play a Ranger who is very, very fun for me and me only. And Mike decided I'm getting in on this shit, and it,
He
it
wanted a
turned,
fan, I gave him a stalker.
yeah, it turned into something that I never planned. Like I had this great backstory for him, and it turned so crazy so quick. Anyway, so back to where it is. You guys are on the island. You've had literally about a day. With the fact that Fade, these rituals wore you out. You have done nothing but perform these rituals. And with the last one failing, it took the last of your energy, and so you are basically now unconscious. You are going to sleep for the rest of the day until tomorrow. If you've ever experienced one of those times where either you haven't had a chance to sleep due to stress or whatever, and you finally get that point where you're able to sleep and you're just out for like 18 hours, that is Fade right now.
But so, yes, okay, I will be quiet in just a moment. I will
Okay.
make sure that Avok knows to keep Scar tied up.
I
If,
thought
You can, you can wake up to recast your,
Okay,
keep
okay.
control over him.
all right.
That's fine. I'm
All right, I'm
saying
out.
that
Good night.
beyond, like you can eat too if you'd like. But beyond very, very basic things, you are basically worthless.
Got it.
Fourth level exhaustion until you get your 18 hours of rest.
All right. Good luck. Have fun, children.
The druids themselves have done their best to. They actually carved out a cave instead of creating like foliage cover and stuff like that because that worked so well before. They helped to carve out a cave for you guys that would be almost invisible from the air. You guys kind of have to duck down to get into it, so you have a safe place to stay. Campfires are a no-no right now because anything that can show where you are is not allowed. So you guys are surviving on basically good berries that the druids are providing you,
Yeah.
which is more than enough sustenance. It's just not fun.
Actually,
Or not.
I would like to have cast Mordenkainen's Private Sanctum.
See, and this is why you have a wizard in the party. Remind me again how that spell works. Is that because that's not the Magnificent Mansion, right? That's
No.
a spell.
Yeah,
that's
that
under
just
that.
looks
That would
level.
be great, but that's a little bit higher. No, sound can't pass through the barrier. It's warded and appears dark and foggy, preventing vision in. We have sensors so that divination spells can't spy in on us. Nothing can teleport in or out of it, as well as you can't plane or travel, and it can be up to 100 feet on each side.
Okay. So you guys are relatively certain that you are safe in this cave right now. The rest of the world, however, you guys know, is not. You took out 3 of 8 of their ships, but 5 ships is still more than enough to do an incredible amount of damage, especially since you guys had a secret weapon in the fact that one of the people that built these ships was with you and told you how to break them. Nobody else is going to have that advantage if you guys stay in this cave. So, the other thing that you have learned is what happened to Elaine while he was gone. You notice Elaine is slightly different than before. I will let Elaine kind of explain his newly acquired item.
God. Oh God. I had to remember because wait, it's in an email. But no, yeah. I have the second Dragon Tail and now.
Okay.
Right.
So if that's the way you want to manifest it, I am super okay with that. It's entirely up to you.
That is how I wanted it. I want 2 dragon tails.
Okay. So you guys have noticed now he has a gauntlet on his off hand that seems to have, just like his original dragon tail, since his vampiric transformation has kind of become a part of his right arm, his left arm has a similar thing, and so it now looks as if he has 2 of these dragon tails that he can control. And do you want to go through everything you learned, or would you like me? Elaine.
I'm still pulling up the email.
You know, it really makes a DM feel great when, you know, he spends all this time world building
Well,
and everything.
I know the basics of it. That essentially there's something in the Platinum City blocking off like the connection to the other worlds and realms and junk. And my Dragon Master has tasked me with going and taking care of that. Is that about it?
Kind of.
Cool.
What he was
Slow
able to
down.
learn from his Dragon Master, they flew west of Kael Isle in a direction that even the Eladrin don't go. And they eventually came to a barrier. A barrier, according to his Dragon Master, didn't exist when his Dragon Master ruled over this area, you know, 6 or 7 centuries ago. And the barrier itself is completely impenetrable. Goes under the water. There's no way outside of this barrier, and it looks like it surrounds the Kael Isles specifically. And Elaine found out that the Kael Isles in this world are very significant because all interplanar travel goes through the Kael Isles. That's why that shrine was there with the portal. So the way the planes are organized, all of which I explained was explained to Elaine, are kind of like concentric spheres, with the prime material plane kind of being in the center, and just outside of it, surrounding the prime material plane, are the Feywild and the Shadowfell that together form one sphere. And then just outside of them are the elemental planes. And then outside of them is the astral sea. And then inside the prime material plane, as in the prime material plane surrounds it, are the heavens and hells that create a sphere. And then inside of that is the void, or the abyss. And so as long as the Kael Isles are cut off from basically all the other planes of existence, interplanar travel can't happen at all. It all has to go through Kael Isles. The gods themselves live in the heavens and the hells, depending on the god that you're specifically referring to. So that's one of the reasons why the fact that the Dark Lady has been able to make a chosen champion is so bizarre, because that means she found a way through the barrier, at least temporarily. So
Yeah.
So now you guys know all this. You know that there is a much, much larger thing going on here. Fade, you have kind of started to learn about the dichotomy of the Chosen and the War of the Chosen that happened millennia ago, and from what you can see, seems to still be a big deal.
Yeah.
So, and all of it focuses on right now on the Platinum City and whatever is in the Platinum City that's generating this field, this barrier that blocks all interplanar travel and communication, which is why things like Banish and Plane Shift seem to work so bizarrely. And even things like Misty Step, where technically you would step into the Feywild for a second, don't quite work the way that they're supposed to.
Yeah.
So, now that you guys have all this information, you've had a day or so to mull it over. Fade, you've regained your strength. Again, the Serrated Death before he left. The Serrated Death left on the ship with the captain. So you don't know where any of them are right now.
I thought he was with us.
I thought he was too, but I could be wrong.
No, he was.
This is
He was with
where
us.
the memory of the DM being Swiss cheese does not help.
Because I remember him
when I
making a
went looking
comment
for
about Scar.
Yeah,
Yeah.
when I went to look for
Yeah.
Scar, he was
okay.
in the rubble.
That's right.
So he should be with us.
Okay.
He almost
So
took Fade's head off.
Serrated Death is with you guys, but other than his Hammer of the Gods, he's got shit as far as the ability to make or forge weapons or anything. But he was able to modify your armor hastily, but well enough that you can use your gauntlet with the armor that he forged for you, the chainmail armor that he forged for you.
That's chainmail. Got it.
I believe that's what it was.
Okay,
That's
cool.
That's a heavy armor, right?
I'll let you know momentarily.
Let me check.
Chainmail is heavy armor.
Okay.
Yep.
So that would be something that you would wear. So it is modified to use your weapons. You don't have any disadvantage with it. And you still have your shield, which is your holy symbol.
Yep.
Force field thing. So yeah, you guys have this information. You guys are still technically on our little map here. You guys are probably right around there.
Okay.
So you're still in that archipelago. Towards the northern end of the Kael Isles. What do you guys want to do?
Just quickly, I want to say that in that day, I did take the time to learn everyone's names.
Okay.
And I also made sure that if Fade still had the stone with the dagger on it, that it stayed outside of the border of the private sanctum.
I believe he threw it away, didn't he?
That is on the beach front of our old island hideaway.
Okay. I don't think she saw that, so she would have made sure.
Yep.
Okay. I believe everybody else got rid of their stones much earlier.
I take it back.
Yeah, I got rid of mine and then I took Elaine's.
Okay.
Or she gave me hers, so that should have been the last one.
Yep. And Kata didn't have one.
Yep. So, you guys are, eating your morning good berries. The druids are kind of trying to figure out what it is that they're going to do. They have made the decision that they're not going to travel with you guys.
Okay.
Because they feel that finding any of their Wood Elven brethren that somehow survived the ordeal is their purpose right now, and trying to heal the damage that was done from the attack because of all the natural elements that were destroyed and things like that. They, their connection with nature, that's what they feel they need to do. So they won't be traveling with you guys. But they also have the ability to, you know, shape change and things like, or wild shape into aquatic creatures and swim wherever they need to go. So it's not like they need a boat or anything.
Are they leaving now?
They'll be leaving soon. It's very early in the morning right now, so they're kind of, they're handing out the good berries, and kind of waiting to see what you guys are going to do before they leave. They've informed you of their plan, but they still want to know what you guys are thinking of. One of you is a druid, and they've probably approached you, Kata, to kind of implore you to go, well, you are a druid. You have an obligation to nature to heal its wounds and protect it from those who would damage it. So they'd probably be waiting around to hear Kata's reply, and they've everyone except for Fade, they've probably made and probably Willow as well. Everyone except you two, they've probably made an emphasis of, if you guys would like to help us, you can. We need to find any Wood Elven survivors. We need to find a new safe haven. Maybe leave the Kael Isles, or go somewhere where the Eladrin can't find us or something. Go underground or underwater or something.
I'll do something before they leave, but I'll let you guys handle it.
Yeah, like it's speak to them before they leave as well, but let's discuss what we're gonna do.
So you guys are all kind of sitting around a collection of metal scraps that one of the druids have cast heat metal on to kind of give you the warmth of a fire without any smoke.
Nice.
And so you guys are kind of around a campfire. The druids are packing up their camp and getting ready to go, and kind of listening in on your conversation to see what you guys decide. So what do you want to do?
I look around, and if no one speaks first, I will ask, where do you guys want to go? And this is to the druids. Do you want me to find someone for you to meet?
They kind of give you a quizzical look. We do not know what it is you are asking.
So let me actually background question this before I get into the scene here.
Sure.
We helped establish this island. We helped recruit most of the groups that were there. It wasn't a lot, but
yes,
we would have a fee. Yeah, like we talked to a couple people, and they brought us in. I get it, but we spent a little bit of time there. My question is, would Fade be familiar with just the people? Like, would I know them? The reason I'm asking is one of my abilities is to cast Sending, which would allow me to talk to someone. And I'm just trying to discern which of these people I think would be a survivor, and I want to try to help these druids at least find a path.
You wouldn't know the general populace because you guys spent so little time at the base itself. You were there. You stopped, you filled up on supplies, you talked to Soligny, you talked with Old One Eye, you talked to the captain, then you left again.
Okay.
However, you do know Soligny, you do know the captain, you do know Old One Eye. You really didn't have a whole lot of dealings with the druids themselves, so you actually don't know even the name of the leader of the druids, because Soligny was kind of your go-to person for connecting with the Wood Elves in general. She led the majority of the Wood Elves.
Heck, we don't even know if Soligny is still alive.
That is true.
So then I just simply ask them, is there anyone that you need to know their whereabouts? Or you would hope to find?
Well, any that survived would be who we're searching for. We would assume they would not be able to get much further outside these islands with the threat of these new airships traveling by traditional means is dangerous. Traveling by traditional means was dangerous before. Now it's a death sentence. If any are still alive, they are nearby, and we could not leave without searching for them. As far as specifics, it'd be nice to know if Solinye made it, where she is, if she has followers with her or if she is on her own. If she is hurt, we have healing abilities. We might be able to save her. She was very important to the Wood Elves. She is the first leader of a united people we have had in centuries. As much as the resistance could be called united. Losing her would be a great disservice to the Wood Elves.
I'll look at Avok. I don't expect anyone to trust me at this point, but is there something I could say to her that would let her know that you're okay and with us?
Honestly, just tell her that we're alive and we're working on this shit.
Okay. I will take a few minutes to think of what I'm going to send to her in reference to the druids, and then so I'll just kind of close my eyes and meditate for a minute, and I'll cast my spell. So I'm done for a little bit.
Okay. So while Fade is focusing on his sending spell, he kind of goes off to a corner of the cave, goes into a trance to do the sending spell. The rest of you guys have at least a couple of minutes to talk about plans.
So, Willow. Remind me again, how long did it take to build those things?
Well, that's an interesting question. The time I spent was mostly on trying to figure out how to enchant them. They already had the ships themselves built when I was there, but when I left a week or so ago, only one was already enchanted to fly. So in a week, they had 8. So I don't know.
Fuck. This is just great.
Question, Jody.
Mm-hmm.
Were all 8 built and visible where I was, and we just got one to fly, or Was I only aware of one?
Everything was very compartmentalized. As much as you were in a very large place, you saw pieces of ships everywhere. But because your focus and because of the spell that you were under,
Right.
the only thing you focused on was the windstones themselves that make all this possible. And a little bit of the mechanical engineering that would be required to make it so that the helm could actually control them.
Sure.
So when you saw 8, the number didn't surprise you. You didn't go, wow,
No.
I didn't think we had that many.
Sure.
But as far as you know, they could have a dozen more that are being built right now. You really don't know. Again, you do know that because the hulls of the ships are solid electrum, a single piece of electrum is worth 5 silver. To get that much solid electrum, you're talking about each one of these ships costing a fortune. Probably close to anywhere between 100 to 500 platinum a piece easily. Maybe even up to 1,000 platinum, which for high-ranking rapiers, having that much money in actual money, not in a bank somewhere, didn't happen. Like, as much as it's quote-unquote called the Platinum City, the city itself is not made of platinum. It is transmuted and things like that to look like it. So, and transmuted materials, as you would know,
Don't last.
yeah, they only last for a number of hours. So this is actual electrum. You have no idea where they were able to get this much of it. You're not aware of any mine or anything around. And electrum itself is a relatively rare, even as currency is relatively rare, it's generally only used by really kind of annoying wizards. It's considered a wizard's currency, and so nobody knows how to make change for it. And it's one of those things. It's like a guy that walks in with a bunch of $2 bills. You just sit there going, really? Like, they've been out of circulation for 20 years. Where did you get these?
So I mentioned that about the electrum. Don't necessarily go into all that detail, but yeah.
Okay.
It does occur to you, Willow, that since 3 of the ships crashed in the home base, that is pure electrum.
Right.
It's theoretically possible if they want to rebuild the ships, they may come back to salvage it.
Okay.
Or if you guys want to get really, really rich, again, you'd have to find a way to store it somehow, but that's a lot of just solid money.
I will find a way.
That'd be great if
Elaine's like, yeah, forget the whole dragon thing. I am set for life.
suppress your rogue tendencies.
I'm sorry.
Anyway.
When they crash, did they break apart or did they stay in one piece?
Well, they were big metal,
Right.
concave shapes. So they got banged up and stuff like that. They probably would have broken a little bit.
Okay.
But for the most part, they hit trees and dirt.
Right.
So they're going to be bent and dented and completely unusable as they are. But electrum is not an incredibly, kind of like gold, it's not a really hard metal.
Oh, okay. All right.
So my understanding, most precious metals are not particularly hard. And if you use them in any sort of construction, you have to, I can't remember the metallurgical term of fusing two metals together.
Alloy.
Yeah, you have to alloy them with something much, much stronger in order for them to do anything. So, since these were pure electrum, they're probably bent and broken and not looking anything like what they did when they were in the air.
Right. Okay. Well then, I also mentioned that they might end up coming back for them because they're expensive.
Okay. This really sucks.
Yeah.
Trying to think what the fuck we can do, but I just don't fucking know.
As you guys are sitting there, you see Fade look almost like he's just been like slapped. Like you see him move back rather suddenly. Because part of the message spell is they can respond, correct?
Correct, in turn.
You don't speak Wood Elven because you would never lower yourself to that point. So there were a fair amount of words that you didn't recognize. You're relatively certain of their meaning. And you know that they're not words that you should really repeat in the company of, ladies or, polite society. But you get the idea that she is alive. And she she didn't give you her location. She seemed very distrustful of you. But the message kind of cut off because while you understand the limits of sending, she does not.
Sure.
And so it ended with a few choice words, and you think there was going to be more to the message, but it ended abruptly. She even worked in some Eladrin words that you had heard before, and were not aware that she knew them. So that was impressive. Like,
I kind of stand up and look at Avok. That didn't go well.
Not surprising, but it does confirm one thing. She's alive.
She's alive.
Which, well, I figured as much, but good to have confirmation.
quick question for you. Sending wizards can do that too, right?
Yes, I can.
Yes, but I don't have it.
No, I'm actually more curious as to know if druids can do it.
I don't believe they can.
Negatives.
Well, yeah,
Okay.
I don't think so.
Who all who has that on their spell list? It's wizards, I would assume sorcerers. Clerics.
Bards, clerics, Great Old One warlocks, and wizards.
Bards, clerics, warlocks, wizards. Okay, cool. Thank you. You guys haven't. Oh, you did have a bard. She got taken to hell.
Yeah, she did.
Oh, good.
Yeah, there's that thing too.
Yeah.
As soon as like, you guys haven't met any bards, have you? I'm like, oh wait, yeah. They're in hell.
Yep. Just,
Another impressive feat seen as, interplanar travel is broken.
oh, right.
Oh.
Um,
Plot
so
holes.
that's another one where you're like, really? No, it's not a
Oh.
plot hole. There's a very specific reason why it happened.
Oh, God.
Okay.
Y'all just don't know it.
That's fair.
There's so many things here that according to the knowledge you guys have should be happening that are happening on purpose. Like my brain may be Swiss cheese right now, but there is an overarching plot here.
Could Animal Messenger work in this instance to get in touch with them?
It would be significantly longer, because
sure.
it takes time.
Yeah,
and I believe Animal Messenger it's limited to 24 hours, right?
24 hours and it travels 50 miles a day.
Depends on what level I would be casting it at, I believe. If you cast a spell using a spell slot at 3rd level or higher, the duration of the spell increases by 48 hours for each slot level above 2nd.
So theoretically, with the right Animal Messenger, like maybe an eagle or some sort of seafowl, someone that's used to flying over the seas,
Yeah.
you might be able to get with a high enough spell slot, because I think you have up to 5th level spells now, right?
Yes, we do.
With a high enough spell slot, you could send an Animal Messenger out and get to the mainland of Kael Isle. Or possibly to the edge of Corrin's Island, or up north to Les Lenora. Maybe just barely up to the island that Ordonnier is on, which is where they found you, and that's where the city in the jungle is, that you remember from your childhood.
Yes.
And then as far south as probably about 20 miles north of Olgoth, from where you guys are right now.
Speaking of Volgoth, the last we heard, they were a free city. If there's some place I'd hit next, it might be there.
Do you mean us or the Eladrin?
Yes.
With their big ships.
Yes. We can have another crack at these fuckers. Yeah, we lost our base, but look what we did. If we can warn them, make any sort of preparations, they could at least survive the attack better than we did. They got us with our pants down. I don't want it to happen to anyone else.
You guys do remember when you first got back, hearing reports of the Eladrin sending troops to Olgoth to suppress the rebellion there. So there's a possibility that land troops got to Olgoth long before any airships would get there.
Okay, it depends on how long ago they got there, because that could have been like a couple of months ago.
The closest purely Eladrin city would probably be Acera, which is south of Olgoth, a few days' journey. And then you have the Isa Island, which is kind of your Tortuga, port cities of Isa Honore and Isa Feluna, which technically have an Eladrin presence there. But it is kind of like an Eladrin rule with non-Eladrin militia in both of those cities. And Avok would probably be the only person that's ever actually been to either of those cities, because he would have stopped over there. It was a popular place for shore leave and things like that for uh, war parties in general. So you probably stopped there at least once. But since the Eladrin went on their crusade of killing or enslaving any non-Eladrin, the Iza Islands is a big place where there would have been a lot of armed non-Eladrin. So you don't really know what would have happened there, because it wouldn't have been like Ordinye, where most of the non-Eladrin population were unarmed peasants. Like they had entire militias and not really fleets, but entire ships full of crew of non-Eladrin that were captained by Eladrin.
I'm gonna say I don't think Avok. Honestly, I wouldn't say that Avok's company would have been given shore leave. Again, cannon fodder, and I mean breaks perhaps, but not like
Well,
vacations.
even with you guys being cannon fodder, the importance of shore leave is much less about vacation and much more about staving off cabin fever. The purpose of you guys would have been to fight, and if you were kept in horrible conditions all the time on a ship, they eventually would have to clean the ship and other things like that. So you guys probably wouldn't have been given like extensive shore leave or money or anything like that, but they would have kicked you off the ship every so often when they could get into a port and have some other race clean. Because again, Eladrin in general enjoy watching the other races have to do menial tasks that they don't like, and cleaning up, half-orc shit is a pretty menial task.
That's fair. Okay.
Oh boy.
So, what do you guys want to do? Other
So,
than the
Mellow.
spell slot that Fate has burned, you guys are, fully rested up and everything. And you have a skiff. You think Fade, and probably Avok too, to be honest. Avok probably more than Fade. You guys spent a lot of time with the captain when you were on the ship. You guys saw his map of the Kael Isles. Avok, you're familiar with the Kael Isles in general because you were often, shown maps of this is where we need you to kill people. So you guys have enough knowledge that you could probably island hop your way down. You could island hop your way to Kael Isle. You could island hop your way down to the Iza Isle. You probably wouldn't be able to make it all the way down to Draconis, simply because in order to get to the Great Dragon Gates, you really need to be in an actual ship. Like, it's far enough away from any landmass that in the little skiff that you guys have, you guys would run out of supplies long before you'd be able to get to the Great Dragon Gates that mark the entrance to the Draconis Sea. But you do know, again, Iza Island had a navy there that was majority non-Eladrin. You know, Iza Island is actually relatively near the island that you washed up on, where you met those spiders and the colony of intelligent spiders. And Fade, you're aware of two other sunken dwarven cities. One to the east and one to the south.
I'm just trying to remember specifically what it was. Elaine, do you still have all your original equipment from the Dwarven City that we visited?
Yes.
I had you take some stuff from the library.
I remember maps.
Is there any chance we can give that to our new wizard and see if she can make heads or tails or divine any kind of information off of those maps?
Yeah, 'cause I think I'd still have them. Yeah. We can do that. I'll give the maps to Willow.
Okay. Willow, he has a bunch of different books and things like that, and some of them are most of them are in a language that you can't read. What languages do you read, first of all?
Common, Gnomish, and Elvish.
Okay. So you do recognize simply from living in the Platinum City and being around dwarves, you do recognize a lot of it's a runic language, and you know Dwarven is a runic language compared to Elvish, which is character alphabet. So you can tell that it's probably related to Dwarvish, but again, you don't even speak Dwarvish, much less whatever language this is.
If you give me 10 minutes, I can tell.
Sure.
Boom.
I have comprehend languages, so I'll
Atta girl.
and figure out what they say.
Does it allow you to read languages?
I believe so. Yes. For the duration, you understand the literal meaning. Well, that's any of you here. You also understand any written language that you see, but you must be touching the surface of which the words are written. It takes about a minute to read one page of text.
Okay. So looking through, you touch a couple of the books. Some of them are history books that describe a history that doesn't make any sense to you whatsoever because it contradicts completely with what you have been told your entire life. But it's kind of useless right now. So you kind of, history, really interesting. None of it's going to help you right now. So you kind of go through that, and eventually you come to this very bizarre-looking map. And the reason it's bizarre is it's printed on incredibly thick leather instead of paper. And you notice there is a wheel in it, and there are shapes all on the wheel and all around the outside of this wheel that kind of surrounds this map. And as you touch it with your comprehend language, the shapes don't turn into words.
Okay.
They're not a language. Neither do the shapes on the wheel itself. You do notice there are some kind of like subscript around these shapes that turn into numbers that are separated into it looks like 12 relatively evenly spaced sections on this wheel. Some sections are a little bit bigger, some sections a little bit smaller, but roughly 12 sections of these numbers with tick marks in between them.
Okay.
But again, the shapes still look like shapes, even with your spell on. And if you'd like to roll me an investigation, or no, a history check, you might be able to learn more.
Is a history check about, probably not a magic item, alchemical, or technological device, so probably not. All right.
So
in this particular instance, technically it is about a technological device, but it's about a technology you don't know about, so yours doesn't count.
Okay.
This is from tech long before you were born.
So a history check or...
It's a history check.
Okay, 15.
15. So looking at it, you know you've seen these shapes before.
Okay.
You can't figure out where. But they seem incredibly familiar. And as you look at it more closely, you do see that the shapes on the outside of the wheel do match the shapes on the inside of the wheel for the most part. And again, the wheel itself can spin. So you have kind of this dial thing. But beyond that, you've got nothing. You've seen the shapes before. You know beyond a shadow of a doubt you've seen these shapes before. You cannot for the life of you figure out where. But you do know they are not words, they are not runes, they're not any form of language.
Okay. Was this a separate map or something in a book?
This was a separate map. This was rolled
Okay.
by itself. It was in when they found it. It was in a tube, and again, it's a very thick piece of leather because there are certain things that were written on leather simply to add longevity to them. This because it's kind of a contraption with the fact that it's got a map printed on it, and then also this wheel that turns. It had to be a little bit thicker in order for the wheel to work and everything like that. So this is a hefty item.
Sure.
It was obviously made with a very specific purpose in mind. But what it is, you got nothing. But again, you were able to see numbers, and those you were able to understand. And they're separated into 12 rough sections. There's tick marks in between the numbers to kind of denote subsections of the numbers. So yeah.
If I turn it, do multiple symbols line up, or is it kind of there's just the same symbols but in a different order?
You can turn it to a point where the symbols on the outside match the symbols on the inside, and you notice there is kind of a triangle that is at the very top of the map when the symbols all line up.
Okay.
Bye, Fade. We'll miss you.
So kind of.
He was so shocked about that. Hi, you're back. Kind of.
Okay.
Hi. You were so shocked to find out about the triangle. You're like, wait a minute, a triangle?
I gotta go check out this triangle thing over here.
That changes everything. So, yes, all the symbols on the outside of the map match the symbols on the inside of the map when the triangle is at the topmost point.
Okay.
And it lines up with one of the numbers.
Okay.
And then as you turn it,
Does that matter?
the number would be the equivalent of 1
Okay.
and 12. Or no, that one would just be the equivalent of 1 with a couple other numbers after it that don't really seem to correspond to something that you're familiar with.
Okay.
But you recognize the number 1. The rest are just random numbers as far as you can tell.
Okay.
So as she's perusing these maps, I kind of look at Elaine. So where's your dragon? Where's your boy at? I think we need his help.
I have no idea. All I know is we need to get to the Platinum City, which is going to be definitely really hard.
Willow pipes up. I don't know that I really want to go back there. quite so soon.
Yeah, same.
Probably get killed.
As fun as that would be, we cannot deal with it right now. Let's see. If I. Hang on, I'm just trying to get our position. There we go. Based on our position, if I can just. Brain hurts a bit, but visualizing the area, a map of the area.
Willow,
What?
if you want, you can, because again, you've learned a lot more about this than just about anyone else has. I mean, I think Elaine reads some Dwarvish, but for the most part, this is an ancient dialect of Dwarvish that hasn't been spoken in centuries.
Okay.
So he only got bits and pieces. You could actually read it. So if you want to confer with other people, you can.
Okay. So I have the book. They came from Elaine. You had them, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So from what I can tell, most of these are kind of a history book, but none of them really make sense. There's this, and I pull out the leather map and kind of turn it a little bit and show that it moves. I'm not really sure what this is. The symbols around it are not any language. Does any of this look familiar to you? I know you've had these for a lot longer.
Elaine, you can roll a history check to see if you can remember anything.
Okay. Because I'm super good at that.
Hmm.
Which one of these D20s wants to betray me? Let's do the critical role one, since that's the one I saw first. It betrayed me. I rolled an 8.
8 total?
Yep.
The symbols look really familiar. You've seen them somewhere before. You know beyond a shadow of a doubt, you've seen the symbols before. For the life of you, you can't remember them.
I say think harder and cast guidance on her. Him.
What does guidance do again?
Gives you
I had a
D4.
D4.
D4. Okay.
Fade, if you want, you can see if you can remember the symbols.
Oh, there's no chance, but I'll try.
We
Would
have
be
the
able to
best
remember?
memories, guys. Where's my D4? My critical roll D4. I want to roll that one. That's not my critical roll D4, but okay. I rolled a 3, so that makes it 11.
Okay. After I see her just stumped, I'm like, well, let me take a look. And I take a look. And I roll a total of 13.
You do recognize these symbols. These are the symbols that were on that ring.
Yes! I took good notes on that ring.
You did.
Okay.
A
You
ring?
remember
My eyes-
specifically the symbols were on the ring, and they were also on the little pedestal. And by pressing certain symbols, that's what activated the ring.
Oh!
Okay. So
Oh, wow, it's been a long time.
I'm wide-eyed and I'm staring at it, and I pull out what's left of my notebook, which I took exacting drawings of the control panel and all the symbols in there, and I match up that triangle, and I'm just like, okay, so that gate room, there are other connections. And then you said that I knew that there was another sunken city to the south and to the east.
Yeah. When you
Back in
were
the
having
day?
your vision,
Yeah.
you saw a total of 3 dwarven cities. The one that you guys went to was Dom Daral.
Yep.
You have no idea what the other 2 are named, but one of them was just barely south and to the east of Corin's Island, and then the other one was just barely south and to the east of Asera, off of Kael Isle.
Okay.
So way down in the south, over by Draconis.
So as I'm looking at this map, I'm just gonna kind of hold my new. I'm always wearing my gauntlet, by the way. This thing never is going to leave my hand. So I just kind of slowly, just kind of like wave my hand over it and say a little prayer and see if I get any guidance onto where specifically the eastern city is over by Corns Island, because that's where I want to go.
Okay. Go ahead and are you trying to figure out?
I just kind of want to
You
aid my
know
memory.
the rough. The thing about these cities is they were floating cities. They could
Right.
move.
Oh, fair. Okay.
So you know the rough placement of where it was like I said, it was south and to the east, probably about 2 days journey from Corns Isle.
So from where it was back when it was functional,
Mm-hmm.
could this skiff make it from Corns Island there?
There's a
If we
big
island
old
hopped to Corns?
there's a big old island in between there and where the
Okay.
city used to be, so you wouldn't have an enormous difficulty getting there.
Oh God, there's a whole island full of corpses for me.
Yeah,
Oh,
if you guys
No.
land on Corns Island, that may be issues. But um, there are small islands if you guys want to avoid Corns Island entirely that you could land on for rest and things like that, and hopefully to resupply. I believe Fade, you have create food and water,
Yeah.
so it's not like you guys really have to resupply. It's just being on the skiff for too long will wear on it, and it'll eventually capsize. So
yeah, no,
stopping.
I had to try to like transform into an orca whale in order to carry you all.
Yeah. So stopping every so often to, do things like retar the hull of it, it wasn't in great shape when you guys got it, so, you know, doing stuff like that. You guys could probably make it to one of the islands near where you think it was within about 5 to 7 days, avoiding Corns Island. The other thing, you do know that there was a gateway that may still have the rotting pieces of a kraken tentacle in it,
Right.
Oh God.
up by Dom Darrell.
Yep.
So you do know there is a gateway there.
Oh yeah, I'm going to so I'm going to actually like be talking out loud, thinking about this, so like connecting the dots. And I'm going to point up to where Dumdara was, and like then that's where I killed the Kraken, and then over here there was another city that was active, and then another one down over here, closer to Draconis. And I'm going to look at Willow and say, "Do you know anything about the old dwarven cities?"
Do I?
You were not aware there were dwarven cities. Your understanding is dwarves work on Eladrin ships and work on undersea farms for the Eladrin. When the Eladrin came and conquered, the history you have been told is when the Eladrin came and conquered this area, the dwarves were kind of shamanistic, leaderless people in tribes that the Eladrin domesticated. Humans were kind of primitive. They bred a lot. They were just about everywhere. Eladrin civilized them. Wood elves were and still are subhuman, sub elven. They're wild, though bestial.
Well,
The
certainly
history
that anymore, but yeah.
that you have been told is that when the Eladrin came through, they brought society with them. They brought technology. They brought civilization with them that wasn't here. And so most of the races they describe kind of similarly. The gnomes and halflings were not wild savages, but they were isolated in small pockets, kind of repressed by the more savage creatures, the worst of which were the orcs, who were this incredibly savage, nomadic, brutal people that went around just, raping and pillaging everything. So they technically used to rule over the island just because their roving bands would just travel from island to island, destroying everything in their path. And then in between cullings, brief bits of civilization would rise up. So to your knowledge, there's never been dwarven cities, sunken or otherwise. The dwarves wouldn't have had that kind of technology.
Unfortunately, my education's been a little bit colored by the teachers, so.
Yeah, I think our educations have pretty much been, for lack of a better term, lies.
You guys may want to lodge a formal complaint with the Secretary of Education.
Oh,
Yeah, like
gosh,
that'll do
he's in
anything.
this universe as well?
Yep, that's exactly what it is. Betsy DeVos. She's an Eladrin.
Makes sense.
Wow.
For
That
the
was not
proving that Eladrins are assholes.
not a connection I was
It
thinking
seems a little
about.
smarter.
I promise you guys, when you get to the big fight with the Council of One, he's not going to go, I'm going to make Kael great again. I promise.
No.
This is not a
Much
commentary
appreciated.
on our current political system. I promise.
Are you sure?
I wrote this story long before. I wrote this story back when he was saying you're fired. Okay.
Yeah. He should have stayed doing The Apprentice.
If he, to be perfectly honest, I might have grounds to sue for copyright infringement. I'm not sure. I'm talking it over with a lawyer. We haven't actually found precedent about acting out a fictional story, whether or not that counts as copyright infringement. So
Okay. Political jokes aside, let's try.
Wow.
Okay, let's focus here.
Focus. What is that?
if anyone else wants to look at the symbols and try and figure out what they are, you are more than welcome to.
Hey,
It's gibberish to him.
Kata, if you want to do it, I will give you advantage on the roll, and you will figure out why if you succeed.
Just in case, I'm going to cast guidance on myself.
Can druids do guidance?
Yes. Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Druids can do
I
everything.
have never played a druid,
Not
to be
true.
perfectly honest.
They're awesome.
I'm not saying they're not good. It's not a class I've played yet. I need to build one for AL. I may wait until Xanthers comes out, though.
I already have a druid rolled up on the character sheet. I'm just like, okay, it'll just sit here till somebody dies.
That's 15 total.
15 total. So when you were younger, you used to sleep out. Younger as in when you were still with your human parents. Some nights after dinner was over and after you guys were all done cleaning up, your father would take you outside and he would trace symbols in the sky, lining up stars, and tell you stories about why specific groups of stars were connected and what their what their names meant. And for the most part, you don't remember most of the stories. You don't even remember what the names of any of these constellations were. But the symbols on that sheet match the symbols that your dad used to trace in the air.
I think I know these from star pictures. I was little, but somehow I remember these.
Nobody has a sailor background, do they? Okay.
We can't move on to the ship.
Yeah. The rest of you guys would be familiar with constellations.
Right.
So when she says the word star pictures, that would have clicked with all of you that these are constellations. And the rough placement of the ones on the map, the ones that are printed on the map, not on the wheel, show because as the planet rotates, the stars move, and the constellations will move. And so different constellations will be over different parts of the world at different times. And so on the outside of the map, you notice that those would probably correspond with the constellations as they would be at the new year. And then the wheel itself, if you were to turn it to, again, there are 12 separations. If you were to turn it to a certain deviation, you would be able to kind of translate where those particular stars, those particular constellations would be in any given month or day. So basically as a way to translate, it was a very simple way to deal with planetary rotation that somebody developed. Probably not perfect, but works for what it was intended for. Whatever it was intended for, you don't actually know. You know it has something, Fade, you know it has something to do with this pedestal because those same, and the rings, because those same symbols appeared on the pedestals and the rings. But beyond that, you got nothing. But obviously this is supposed to be some sort of like a cipher almost to translate.
Okay. I think at this point, after asking Willow that, I'm going to look at Elaine and say, do you remember how much money you found in that safe in Dumdoro?
We found a lot.
It wasn't actual money. It was like solid gold and stuff.
We
I
did
think
find
it's
some
worth-
platinum.
Oh yeah, we did find platinum. Hold on, let me check. I have it written down, obviously.
I believe you guys also found some gems too, but I don't
Yeah.
remember if you have it.
We're not talking about those gems yet.
Let me find my loot card. Oh, here it is.
This is a
Let's
shopping
see.
episode without any shopping, folks.
Right. See,
Like we would be able to do any shopping in the first place with all these ladrons.
Plus, I kept our bard's part too. So let's
Yeah, you
see.
did.
Yeah, I have 800 gold pieces worth of gold bars. 100 platinum pieces worth of platinum bars. 400. No. I can't read my own writing. 40 precious gems.
Okay, the reason I ask is I'm going to try to persuade Elaine that it's worth going to another city to try to find more amazing things. I mean, look at those magical bands that you have. They're have the potential to do amazing good. Look at my shield. The last time we went, it was worth our time to be there. I mean, Avok did die, but whatever. And I'm going to
he's not
have
dead,
my
he
hand
got better.
right. And I just kind of like lay my hand just pointing to where the easternmost city by Corns Island was back when it was active. And I'm going to say there was another city like Dumdoro here. If we want...
And he's pointing roughly around here-ish.
If you think we're not strong enough to go toe-to-toe and we just got lucky, which is a possibility, then this is a place where we could perhaps learn some more secrets. And this map, along with this triangle that you've shown me here, I think there's a way to get from one to the other. If we can somehow activate these gates, I think we could move about the archipelago more quickly than they can. I think it's worth taking the time to figure out if that's possible, and if so, how do we do it? Now that we have someone who understands magic even better than I do, there's a chance. So I just kind of like plead my case to Elaine specifically. I understand this isn't going to the Platinum City, but like you said, we're not going to survive that yet. If we can dart around all over the place and gain our allies back, build our strength, who knows, maybe we could even find a way into Draconis, which I know we all agreed on was very important.
I'll do whatever we need to make it to the Platinum City. So we can do that. But if we run into a Kraken again,
I'll just kill another one. It's fine.
you didn't kill the first one.
I have the proof.
Yeah, and you have witnesses who can deny that.
You cut off like one tentacle.
Willow, don't believe him. Don't believe him.
Portal cut off one tentacle.
Jackass.
So I just kind of say that, and with that, I'm actually going to go off and do a 10-minute spell over here. And I'm going to cast Scrying on Olgoth. I want to go over to... Yeah, go ahead.
If we're still in the sanctum, you have to go outside the sanctum for it to connect.
Make his divination.
Oh, crap, I forgot.
Oh, yeah,
we're
that's
even
right.
there.
Yeah,
I know
divination
it-
magic doesn't work.
Yeah.
Or theoretically, if you
go
wanted to
in.
scry on someone inside the sanctum, from inside the sanctum, you could.
Right. Well, no, it says creatures in the area can't be targeted by divination spells, but it doesn't say they can't send them out.
It's fine.
I'm not sure.
I'm gonna make the ruling that it's basically a wall against divination.
Okay.
So it stops divination magic by simply kind of like lead lining prevents radiation links. You have lead lined your cave. So if you wanna do it, you're gonna have to go outside of the cave.
Okay.
I will let Willow know that. That's why I'm going out.
Okay.
Because I don't really trust her yet, but she did more or less warn us. So I'm on the fence, but leaning towards good. I just want to see if she does anything or tries to stop me.
I whisper. I go over to Fade and whisper, "Don't worry, I'm keeping an eye on her."
I nod and move a little bit better. And I'm just going to scry on, I guess, the busiest part of Olgoth that we saw. Either the ports when we got there or on our escape. I know we were like in the middle of a square or something.
Well, technically, the port that kind of funnels into Olgoth is not a part of the city itself. The city itself is far enough inland that it's technically landlocked. on purpose because of the underground city and everything underneath it, where they keep all the gladiators. It had to be far enough in that city could exist.
Okay.
So you're talking about like the port itself is about a mile away from the city. So if you want to scry the port, you'll be able to see the port. If you want to scry the city, you'll be able to see the city. But you wouldn't be able to look at both with one.
Okay. Then, quick question. As an Eladrin, knowing how we operate, would they have sent troops by land or by sea to get there faster?
Both.
All right, I'm going to go right to the city then.
They have ways to, depending on the troops that you're talking about, they have ways to travel over land relatively quickly. The sea overall is faster for moving large cargo and things like that, simply because traveling over land, you know, it's really, really heavy, whereas traveling over sea, it's much lighter. So shipping and things like that, always done on the sea. Troop transport can go either way.
Okay.
It depends on what kinds of troops. The more magical troops with access to spells like Dimension Door and things like that, they'll go over the land just as quickly as the sea. And they'll transport entire armies using teleportation circles and things like that. So, and Olgoth was a large enough city that there probably, at least at one point, was a teleportation circle in Olgoth somewhere. So they theoretically could just transport troops into the city.
Yuck.
Ew.
Most major Eladrin cities would have had a teleportation circle installed.
You know, I guess knowing that, maybe I don't even bother with that. I think Fade's attention is more on these cities. Like, I'm really intrigued by the thought of using that teleport system. Mm-hmm. So, I guess maybe I don't go scry that, and I'll just kind of... crap!
Because I believe the scry spell, you don't actually have to have been there. You just have to know about it, right?
Yeah, I can do it at a place if I've seen it. Otherwise, I can do it... but that one doesn't move. If I do it on a person, then I have to roll a check to see, well, depending on how well I know them, whether or not it works. That's fine. I guess
if you wanted to try and scry on one of the cities, because you technically have physically seen them in your vision.
Right. I'm kind of thinking...
I would treat it as the same way as if you were trying to scry on a person, where you would have to make a roll to see, quote unquote, how well you knew it, because the cities can move.
Sure. You know what? I'm going to give it a go. I want to try to scry on the heart of the city, where it was in my vision.
So go ahead and I'm actually, I don't have my PHB next to me. It's really far away. So
Sure. The spell.
How does the roll work?
So I'm not very familiar. I'll go ahead, Katz, if you want to read it. That's fine.
Second hand, I say modifier +5. First hand, it's a straight roll. Familiar -5 modifier, and that's for knowledge. Connection, likeness or pictures, a modifier -2. Possession or garment, -4, and bipar like affair, that's -10.
To the DC.
Yeah.
So what's the base DC?
Let's see. I assume it's the spell DC.
Okay.
It would be the casters.
Fade, we're gonna do it this way. I'm gonna have you roll, because you've seen it once. I'm gonna have you roll a just a straight up wisdom check with disadvantage, and we will see.
So I know that I'm focusing on the spell. Would I be able to, since it's not concentration, it's a long cast, could I guidance myself at some point?
Um.
Just asking. It's a spell.
No. It's not. It's the fact that guidance is changing how it works going forward.
Okay,
Um.
so with disadvantage, just a wisdom check is 18.
Okay, so that's fine. You don't have to worry about guidance. Going forward, guidance, if you want to cast it, if you specifically want to cast it, you have to make a concentration check.
Okay.
Kata, because your guidance isn't divine, it is nature-based.
Yes.
You can still cast it, but you will have limitations as to what I will allow you to guidance and what I won't, because it'll have to be something nature.
Yeah. Okay, I understand.
And
I was
that's
going to limit myself to how I would be using it on anyway.
And that's entirely because, again, your connection to the Dark Lady. While you have your chosen weapon, you have a connection to her, which is how you are still able to cast spells and everything like that, with the fact that she is now completely cut off from this world. But every time you have to rely on that connection, and she has to return something like guidance, where she's actually giving you something, it's much harder because you are breaking through this barrier that you know nothing about. So,
Okay.
18 is enough. You scry. I have to remember which city this is now. I wasn't expecting you guys to go back to the dwarven cities. That one was. All right, so you sit there and you focus, and you start by seeing kind of an aerial view of a bunch of islands and things like that, and water that seems to be darker in the center than it is in other place. And then you kind of focus in more, and you can start to see features and things like that that look distinctly like Dom Dural, but are underneath the water. And then as you focus as hard as you can on it, your vision starts to enter into the water, and then you start getting kind of like a massive headache and lose control in the spell as you descend underneath the water.
Ugh.
So you saw something there. It was underneath the water. You know Dom Darl was so far underneath the water that from above no one could see it.
Sure. I guess, was there any light at all? Because, I mean, if it's
you
super
never
low,
got
there
under
would
the
be
water,
okay.
but you were able to see from the surface of the water shapes and things like that. So you get the idea that this city is probably closer to the surface than Dom Darl was.
Okay. That's all I wanted to do.
However, you have no idea. Again, Dom Darl had this barrier that was keeping it from being flooded. You actually have no idea what the state of the city is in.
Yep.
You just know it's a little closer to the surface, close enough to the surface that it could be seen from the surface of the water. At least a vague dark shape. Which a casual passerby might think of maybe a coral reef or something. But definitely not below the quote-unquote light level. Because I think light penetrates, 200 feet or something like that? If we want to, take physics into account,
We're good. All right. So, with that information, I'll come back inside and
Fireballs happen. No.
fine, let's do it. I just kind of look at Elaine and then look at Ava. I think we could find another dwarven city. If nothing else, maybe it's a place to hide. But I think there's so much more to be gained there. I know you're not one for hiding, but
Not really. Not to mention, I wasn't thrilled the last time we went to one of these places.
you mean you didn't have an enjoyable experience?
Rugs are your friends.
Oh
Oh,
God.
God, the memories.
Triggered.
I don't want to talk about it. But since we really don't have much other options, I guess that's somewhere to start. However, I suggest we find a better mode of transportation.
Then perhaps we go to the shore leave island. Yessa and Nor.
Isa.
It's more or less on the way. Isa and Nor.
Yeah, I was thinking that too. So, yeah. Why don't we head there, see what we can acquire, and then go over to the water city.
Kata, what do you think?
Okay. Hopefully it helped.
I think I don't know what we can do to help the cause right now. They're on the run. There's no safe place anymore.
People think we betray them.
For all that they know, they think we're dead. We were on that ship when it went down, as far as most people are concerned. We might finally have an advantage that we thought we had before.
Well, we're at the put off those plans for a bit. Avok then turns to the druids and pretty much tells them, when you find Soul, just tell her to stay low for a while. We'll come find her when we're ready.
If we are able to find her, we will deliver your message. But please understand, our goal is to heal the damage that has been done, to bury the desecrated bodies of our comrades.
Yeah, and you can do that while being hidden, right?
And they both kind of look at each other. Yes. Now
Good.
that we know what it was that led them to us, we can avoid them. It
To look
is
away.
remarkable how simple it is to fool the eye when you can become as small as a spider. We wish you the best on your journey.
Yeah, you guys, look on yours.
This is... And you see them kind of hesitating to speak. And they finally get it out. This is different than it has ever been. We have kept the stories going for generations. We know the history that the Eladrin don't tell. They have never done anything like this before. This shows a cruelty and indifference to suffering and life we previously did not think they were capable of. Now that they have these weapons that allow them to rain down fire and destruction on their enemies, they will not wait for you to prepare. They will not wait for you to be ready. No matter what you think, this will end very soon. So whatever steps you take, understand they may be your last before you're confronted with something so powerful you cannot hope to destroy it. Choose your path carefully, for we are all living on borrowed time.
Buddy, I've been living on borrowed time for my whole life. This is not new to me.
Well, may nature watch over and guide you in your path. And they kind of bow, and then they leave the cave.
Willow bows back to them.
Well, and they would have buried the body of the ranger during Fade's day of rest.
Willow looks around at the group and says, I know you have no reason to trust me. And if you ask me to leave, I will. My hope was to warn you all. I failed in that. I'd like to find a way to make it. Nothing will make it right, but to make it better. And if you will have me, I think that I can be useful to you and help you. And she looks at Fade specifically and says, and I've never had an Eladrin step in front of a blow. It's usually coming from them. So thank you.
Well, if I'm going to be blunt, I definitely don't trust you. Which is why we're not letting you leave.
That's very fair. I hope someday to earn that trust.
Keep us alive, you may do that.
I'll do my best.
All right. So, you saying or?
Yeah, let's go.
All right. So The trip itself takes about 4 days, with 2 kind of stops at some smaller islands to get there, until you get to the island that Isa Honore is on. You land on the opposite shore that the city itself is, but you know probably half a day's hike through jungle-like conditions. You could easily get to the outskirts of Isa Honore. The city itself is Isa Felune is the military port, because of how close it is to Olgoth, and everything like that, and how close it is to Kael Isle. That's where most of the military goods go through. It's also where the largest slave market is. Isa Honore is more of a trading post. It also tends to be a place where people that are looking to be hired out on ships tend to congregate, simply because due to the fact that Felune, or Feluna, sorry, is a much more military port. You would have to enlist to get on a ship there, whereas Isa Honore, there's a few more privateer type ships, kind of like what you guys were hired on for at the beginning of the campaign. So think Tortuga, or trying to think of the name of it. Is it Booty Bay in World of Warcraft?
Yep.
It's been a while, folks, since I played the WoWs.
Yeah.
But again, a city that basically is a dock. The city itself grew from a dock. So it is it tended to grow up rather than out. So you have some buildings that are built into trees and cliff faces and things like that that are 5-6 stories tall, because growing out meant, cutting down forests and jungles and dealing with the wildlife and stuff like that. So they would just build walls and things like that. So you have this giant kind of port with just taverns and living quarters and shops and everything, all within this very small area. Getting into it not from inside the port, remarkably difficult, because you basically have to climb over a wall that's several stories high and deal with stuff like that. But if you were to come in on a ship, that's how everybody comes in to the city itself. So how do you guys want to get in there? You landed on the opposite side of the island. It'll take probably the rest of the 4th day to make minor repairs to your skiff and everything like that to make sure it's seaworthy, upkeep kind of stuff, if you want to sail around to the actual port itself. Or again, a half-day's hike, and you can be at Isa Honora and try and find a way into the city that way. There is a trade road that goes through the center of the jungle from Isa Honore to Isa Felune, or Feluna. But other than that one road, it is wild jungle. Kata, you kind of feel at home here. Very, very similar to the wilderness that you lived in previously.
Yeah, which is kind of reassuring because after the day after we were attacked, she realized she didn't prepare a spell that could have helped save Mama. So she's kind of blaming herself for that right now.
All right, so what do you guys want to do? Sail around, go through the forest.
Forest.
Yeah, I said forest is better.
All right, who's going to lead the party?
Uh,
Okay,
Only
I need a survival check from you, Kata.
okay. Should I cast Pass Without a Trace in case we get Fate, there are not any like enemy on the way enemies on the way, are there?
we can assume there's probably some travel between, but who knows with the state of the world right now. I think all bets are off.
I cast it.
Okay. So you guys feel this kind of energy radiate out from Kata. You start seeing that your footprints tend to disappear. Any grass or twigs that you displace by stepping on them tend to go back to their previous positions after you step over them. So,
Okay.
survival check.
Okay. Natural 20!
All right. You feel very much at home to the point where Fade, Elaine, and Avok and Willow actually have a bit of a hard time keeping up with you. You're a little excited to be kind of back in your own element again. You're, running on tree branches and, diving under, logs and stuff like that, and just kind of doing what you used to do. And you're aware enough that you can kind of tell when dangerous things are getting close to you. Like you smell the familiar smell of a panther, and are able to kind of avoid it and that. And you make it to the outskirts of Isa Nore pretty quickly. Like it only takes you about 4 hours to get there. And what you see is this giant kind of wooden palisade style wall that goes up about 30 or 40 feet depending on which part you're looking at, and it curves all the way around until there is a kind of cliff drop off that drops straight down to some pointy rocks and water on the northern side of the city. And then if you go around the city to the south, you'll eventually find the road that connects Isa Nore to Isa Feluna. So, what do you guys want to do? Fade, you're a little bit winded. Willow, you probably rode piggyback at certain points.
Actually, I can say that somewhere on this journey, I changed the transmuter stone to increase my speed by 10 feet so I can keep up.
Oh, that's cool.
Nice.
Actually, might be a little faster than some. Anyway, I don't know if they'd take it well, but we could fly over. I mean, at least if I cast it, I could do at least 3 people.
I believe I can fly.
What's the sentry around this area look like? Can I perception check that?
Sure, yeah. Go and roll me a perception check.
Bless you.
Get into.
12.
So looking around, you see no sentries from this angle. You get the idea that they probably don't really expect anyone to come from the jungle because, despite the fact that you had an expert guide through it, the jungle is dangerous. And the jungle is kind of a waste of time to go through when, even if you wanted to attack the city, attacking it from the harbor would make a lot more sense. While it does have some defenses, it's basically just a big old box canyon that's been created. I mean, it'd be like shooting fish in a barrel. So being worried about people coming to the forest is really not something that concerns them that much. And it's a seedier kind of town. So sentries and other things like that are not as focused on keeping track of who's going in and out unless there's some money to be made off of that knowledge. And people dumb enough to go into the forest generally are not worth the effort to track them. They're not worth any money.
Okay, I could easily attack from it. Idiots. You know what? I did fine flying last time. I'm sure I'll be fine this time.
Now
Well,
you do
this
know,
one actually.
while humans are everywhere, a half elf is going to raise a lot of questions, even as in as seedy a place as this. A half elf
Always me.
is going to be noticed,
Hmm.
especially in golden armor.
Oh shit.
And an Eladrin is definitely going to be noticed for a very different reason. If an Eladrin
Yeah.
shows up in Izanore, that generally means they're looking to conscript people as opposed to like pay them. They're simply going to force you into serving on a ship. So you two are going to be by far the most noticeable. Gnomes, again, majority of them live in the Platinum City, but they don't have the stigma attached to them that elves and half-elves do. Anyone with pointy ears in general is going to turn heads in this particular city. They do make it's newer technology, but they do make these things. They call them cloaks, and if you bring them up, they come with like a cape and a hood. And if you wear the hood up, it actually hides most of your features.
I don't believe you.
All right, we've just rewritten the lore of Kingdom of the Kael Isles. They never developed cloaks. So
Cloaks don't exist in this universe.
you were going to get a cloak of the Mount Black, just by arriving here. But since cloaks don't exist,
Jody.
yeah. So you guys think if you wear something to kind of hide your ears, and hoods or something like that, again, it won't be completely out of place because again, this is a seedy town. People go here to disappear. Won't be completely out of place, but if you walk in brazenly, and people recognize you to be an Eladrin, word is going to travel very, very fast that there's an Eladrin in the city.
Oh,
If I
dear.
put on a cloak, does it also turn gold?
No. The turning gold thing is intentional. Like you have to do it on purpose.
Okay.
You're not King Midas.
Just wanted to make sure. Okay.
It's cosmetic only. It's still leather armor.
Oh.
Could make a
It's
soul sword.
fabulous leather armor, but
Yes.
So what are we doing? Will it look weird if we just fly up over the wall? Probably.
Probably.
well, your knowledge of just people in general, they don't tend to fly. Like this whole airship thing, brand spanking new. The idea of traveling through the air when you're not a bird, still a relatively new idea.
Yeah.
Like fly spells exist, but they don't generally tend to be used
For long periods of time.
to get into cities the wrong way. Generally fly spell used to traverse tough terrain. And again, magic tends to be limited to Eladrin and the people they allow to learn it. So when you're outside of a major Eladrin settlement, you don't see a ton of arcane magic. It's just, again, the Eladrin have a bit of a monopoly on who's allowed to learn arcane magic. So no big Eladrin population, not a ton of arcane magic. So what are you guys gonna do? Time is passing.
Maybe we should just look around, see if we can find an opening somewhere. I mean, I know it's a fucking wall. I know, there's got to be something.
If you want to do that, I need investigation check.
Let's investigate. Freaking dude. I'm okay with that. 19.
So it takes you the better part of 2 hours because this is a massive wall. But you look around, and eventually you find a seam. And you think you found maybe a smuggler's entrance to the city, or something along those lines. You do notice what looks kind of like a deer trail or something similar to it, a path that has been followed and walked on enough that it's been worn into the ground that leads away from this and leads away from the city. So obviously this hidden doorway has been used before. You have no idea what's on the other side of the door, though. And you also, with a 19, you don't really see a way to open it from this side. You just see the seam of the door. Obviously, there is a seam. There is a separating. So if you wanted to try and force it open with a crowbar or something like that, it's wood.
I have a fucking axe.
You could break the door down too. I'm sure the smuggler will be super, super thrilled about it. But
Can I use my
Do you want
axe
to make
and
that
maybe
extra
not chop it down? Can I use my axe in lieu of a crowbar?
yeah, you're still probably going to do damage to the door if you force it open that way. But
Yeah.
you can do that.
And maybe use the blunt side of the axe.
It's a magic axe, so I'm not worried about it.
Okay.
Alrighty, so what do
Make me an athletics check.
Oh, okay. Athletics is that's 15.
All right. The door itself is again, it's made of wood. It's not an incredibly difficult thing to kind of break. You do feel it start to give, and then all of a sudden, you hear a clicking sound and are thrown forward as you no longer have anything providing resistance against your axe as you push against it, and you kind of land prone. As you hear the familiar sound, clicking sound of a crossbow bolt being set into place into multiple crossbows. Actually, you hear.
Oh boy.
And as you look from this door, which you find out to be roughly about 10 feet by 10 feet, a relatively decent-sized door. There are about a dozen people of various races, all with heavy crossbows aimed at you and your friends.
Oh, God.
I cast Mage Armor on myself.
And before you can do that, you see a man step forward with a cane and a monocle. Go, so, looks to me like we might be having some guests for dinner tonight. And that is where we are going to leave it
What?
for tonight.
Oh my God.
Thank you so much for watching. If you would like to see where all this began, these guys, a couple of these guys have actually been playing together for over 2 years. They're finally getting to the good parts of the campaign. And yeah, so you can find all that on my YouTube channel. It's youtube.com/TrainerJody. Otherwise, follow me on Twitter. I'm at TrainerJody there. And every other Saturday, I do run an Open Legend RPG on Zelda Universe's Twitch channel. That's twitch.tv/Zelda Universe TV. This weekend will be there'll be a rebroadcast of the episode we did last weekend, and then next weekend, the one after this Saturday, will actually be a brand new episode with a full cast. So yes, feel free to tune into that. Or every Tuesday night, I do run D&D games here. I have this campaign, and then on the weeks I'm not running this campaign, on the other weeks, I'm running a Tyranny of Dragons campaign, which we are actually ending fairly soon, and they will be rolling brand new characters and starting a brand new custom campaign over the next couple of months here. So lots of cool stuff happening on the channel. I also will randomly sing karaoke when I'm feeling bad about myself and find out how few modern songs I actually know. But if you want to hear me butcher a Dove Award-winning contemporary Christian song, that's the place, to go, or a lot of jazz. So yeah, like I said, follow me here on Twitch. I try to broadcast. I broadcast at least once a week. I try to broadcast more than that when I can. Otherwise, that's all for me today, and I will see you guys next time. All right. Bye bye.